In the quiet hours of the evening, when the world begins to slow and the noise of the day gradually fades into something softer, something gentler, there is a space that opens, a space where ancient voices can still be heard, whispering across the centuries with a wisdom that never ages, never diminishes, never loses its capacity to touch something deep within us. Tonight, we turn our attention to one such voice, the voice of Seneca, a philosopher who lived in Rome nearly 2,000 years ago, a man who understood something fundamental about the nature of time, about the brevity of life, about the way we spend our days without truly noticing how quickly they pass, how silently they slip through our fingers like water, like sand, like something we can never quite hold on to no matter how tightly we try to grasp it. Seneca was not just a philosopher in the abstract sense. He was not someone who merely thought about life from a distance, observing it as if through a window. He lived, he breathed, he engaged with the world in all its complexity and difficulty. He served as an advisor to emperors. He experienced both wealth and exile. He knew what it meant to have power and what it meant to lose everything. And through all of this, through all the ups and downs of his long and complicated life, he thought deeply about time, about how we use it, how we waste it, how we fail to recognize its value until it's already gone. There's something comforting in that, isn't there? In knowing that even 2,000 years ago, people struggled with the same things we struggle with today. They worried about time. They felt it slipping away. They wished they could slow it down or hold on to it, or make better use of it somehow. And in recognizing this, in seeing that these questions are not new, that they have always been with us, there's a kind of peace that can settle over the mind, a recognition that we're part of something larger, something that connects us across all these centuries, to every person who has ever paused, looked up at the stars, and wondered where all the time went. Seneca wrote many things during his life: letters, essays, philosophical treatises. But perhaps his most famous work, the one that has resonated most deeply across the ages, is a short essay he called On the Shortness of Life. And in this essay, he makes a simple observation, one that feels obvious once you hear it, but that most of us never truly grasp until we're forced to confront it. He says that life is not short, that we have plenty of time, more than enough time, if only we would use it wisely. But we waste it. We fritter it away on things that don't matter, on distractions and anxieties and pursuits that lead nowhere. And so by the time we realize what we've done, by the time we finally understand the value of what we had, it's already gone. It's not that life is short, Seneca tells us. It's that we make it short through our own carelessness, through our own failure to pay attention, to be present, to recognize what we have while we still have it. And there's something deeply peaceful in this realization, even though it might seem sad at first. Because if the problem is not that life is too short, but that we waste the time we have, then that means we have more control than we thought. It means that even now, even at this moment, we can make a different choice. We can decide to spend our time differently, to value it more highly, to stop throwing it away on things that ultimately don't matter. Seneca begins his essay with a passage that feels almost like it was written yesterday. He says that everyone complains about how short life is, about how there's never enough time, about how the years fly by before we know it. And yet, he says, if you actually look at how people spend their time, you'll see that they waste most of it. They give it away freely to anyone who asks. They squander it on trivial pursuits. They let it be stolen from them without even noticing. And then they have the audacity to complain that life is too short. He writes this with a kind of gentle frustration, not anger exactly, but a sense of bewilderment. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we fail to see what's happening until it's too late? And the answer, Seneca suggests, is that we don't truly believe that time is valuable. We don't treat it as the precious resource it is. We treat it as if we have an endless supply, as if there will always be more, as if tomorrow is guaranteed, and next week is certain, and next year will definitely come. And so we waste today. We throw away this hour. We let this moment slip past us without really experiencing it, without really being here for it, because we assume there will be another moment just like it tomorrow, and another one the day after that, and on forever. But of course, that's not how it works. Time is the one thing we can never get back. Once a moment is gone, It's gone forever. We can earn more money if we lose it. We can make new friends if we lose them. We can find a new job or a new home or a new relationship, but we can never reclaim a single second that has passed. It's gone, vanished into the past, irretrievable and final. And Seneca wants us to understand this, not in a way that makes us anxious or fearful, but in a way that helps us wake up, helps us see what we have right now, helps us recognize the incredible gift of this present moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this quiet evening as the light fades and the world grows still. He tells us that the wise person is the one who understands the value of time, who guards it jealously, who doesn't give it away to just anyone or anything, who carefully considers how each hour will be spent, not because they're miserly or selfish, but because they recognize that time is life itself. To waste time is to waste life. To spend time carelessly is to live carelessly. And to live carelessly is to arrive at the end of your days and realize that you were never really present for any of it, that you were always somewhere else, always thinking about tomorrow or yesterday, always distracted by something that didn't really matter. There's a passage in Seneca's essay where he describes how people give their time away to others as if it costs them nothing. Someone asks for a favor, and we say yes without thinking. Someone wants to talk, and we stop what we're doing to listen, even though we're not really interested. Someone needs our help with something trivial, and we drop everything to accommodate them. And we do this over and over again, day after day, until we look up and realize that our whole life has been spent serving other people's agendas, living according to other people's priorities, and we never once stopped to ask what we wanted, what mattered to us, how we wanted to spend this precious, irreplaceable time we've been given. And Seneca says this is a kind of madness. He says we guard our money carefully, we protect our property, we lock our doors and build fences around our land. But when it comes to time, we're incredibly careless. We let anyone take it from us. We give it away without a second thought. We act as if it's worthless. And then we wonder why life feels so short, why we never have enough time for the things we really care about, why we arrive at old age feeling like we never really lived. But here's the beautiful thing about Seneca's philosophy. He's not scolding us. Not really. He's not trying to make us feel guilty or ashamed. He's simply trying to wake us up, to help us see what we're doing, to offer us a different way of thinking about time and life and how we spend our days. He's inviting us to make a change, to start valuing our time more highly, to stop giving it away so carelessly, to begin living with more intention, more awareness, more presence. And this is what makes his philosophy so perfect for these quiet evening hours, for these moments when the day is ending and we're preparing for sleep. Because Seneca's words are gentle, they're compassionate, they're not demanding anything from us, except that we simply notice, simply pay attention, simply become aware of what's already happening. He's not asking us to become different people or to achieve great things or to transform our lives overnight. He's just asking us to notice, to see, to recognize that time is passing, that each moment matters, that this breath you're taking right now is unique and unrepeatable, that you will never have this exact moment again, and that there's something sacred in that, something worth paying attention to. As we settle into this exploration of Seneca's thoughts on time and mortality, let's allow ourselves to slow down even more, to let the mind become quiet, to let the thoughts that race during the day begin to settle like sediment in water, to find that still point within ourselves where we can simply rest, simply be, simply exist, without needing to do anything or become anything or achieve anything. Seneca himself knew the importance of this kind of quiet reflection. He understood that wisdom doesn't come from constant activity, from always being busy, from filling every moment with noise and distraction. Wisdom comes from stillness, from silence, from taking the time to sit with yourself and think about what really matters. And that's what we're doing here, in this quiet space, with these gentle words flowing like a river, carrying us slowly toward sleep, toward rest, toward a deeper understanding of what it means to be alive, to be human, to be here now in this moment. The Stoic philosophers, of which Seneca was one of the most eloquent, had a particular way of thinking about time that feels especially relevant to us now, here in this quiet moment as we prepare for sleep. They understood that time is always moving, always flowing, always carrying us forward whether we want it to or not. And they understood that there's no point in resisting this flow, no point in wishing that time would slow down or speed up or stop altogether. Time simply is. It moves at its own pace, following laws we can't change. And the wise person is the one who accepts this, who flows with time rather than fighting against it. This doesn't mean being passive or giving up or not caring about anything. It means understanding what you can control and what you can't. And you can't control time. You can't make it go slower or faster. You can't get back the moments that have passed. You can't stop the future from arriving, but you can control how you relate to time, how you use the time you have, how you think about the past and the future and this present moment. The Stoics had a practice they called memento mori, which means remember that you will die. And this might sound morbid at first. It might seem like a dark and depressing thing to think about, especially as we're trying to relax and fall asleep. But actually, it's the opposite. It's one of the most life-affirming practices there is. Because when you really understand that your time here is limited, that you won't live forever, that someday in the future this will all come to an end, when you really grasp that truth, not just intellectually, but in your bones, in your heart, in the very core of your being, then suddenly every moment becomes more precious, more valuable, more worth paying attention to. If you knew you only had 1 year left to live, you probably wouldn't waste much time on things that don't matter. You wouldn't spend hours scrolling through your phone or watching television you don't really care about, or having conversations that leave you feeling empty. You would focus on what's truly important, on the people you love, on the experiences that bring you joy, on the things that make life feel meaningful and rich and full. And Seneca's point is that you don't actually need to wait until you have 1 year left. You can start living that way right now. Because the truth is, none of us knows how much time we have. It could be decades. It could be years, it could be months, or weeks, or days. We simply don't know. And so the wise person lives as if each day might be their last, not in a frantic or desperate way, but in a way that's fully present, fully awake, fully alive to the gift of being here now. There's a famous line from Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic philosopher who lived a generation after Seneca, where he says something like, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." And this might sound harsh at first, but really it's an invitation to clarity, to simplicity, to focusing on what truly matters and letting go of everything else. When you remember that you will die, that this life is temporary, that nothing lasts forever, you stop wasting time on petty concerns, on grudges and resentments, on worries about things that won't matter in a week or a month or a year. You start to see more clearly what's actually important. And what you see, if you look honestly, is that most of the things we worry about, most of the things we spend our time and energy on, don't really matter very much in the grand scheme of things. What matters is being present, being here now, experiencing this moment fully, connecting with the people we love, doing work that feels meaningful, living in accordance with our values, being kind, being honest, being true to ourselves. These are the things that matter. These are the things that make life worth living. And everything else is just noise, just distraction, just ways we avoid confronting the simple, profound truth that we are here now and someday we won't be. Seneca writes about how most people live as if they're going to live forever. They postpone the things they really want to do. They put off their dreams. They tell themselves they'll do it next year, or when they retire, or when the conditions are perfect. And then suddenly they're old, or sick, or dying, and they realize they never did any of it. They spent their whole life waiting for the right moment, and the right moment never came because they didn't understand that the right moment is always now, always this moment, always this breath. He says that people are very careful about their possessions. They don't let anyone steal their money or their belongings. But when it comes to time, they let everyone steal from them. A person asks for a meeting, and you give them an hour of your life without thinking about it. Someone wants you to do them a favor, and you sacrifice your evening without considering whether it's really worth it. You fill your days with obligations and commitments that don't actually serve you, that don't make your life better or richer or more meaningful, and then you wonder why you never have time for what you really care about. And the solution Seneca offers is simple. though not easy. Start treating your time as the precious resource it is. Start saying no to things that don't matter. Start protecting your hours and your days the way you would protect your money or your home. Start making conscious choices about how you spend your time instead of just drifting along, letting other people's demands and expectations dictate your life. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or isolated. It doesn't mean never helping anyone or never being generous with your time. It means being intentional about it, being conscious, making real choices instead of just reacting to whatever comes your way. It means asking yourself, is this how I want to spend this hour of my life? Is this person or this activity worth the time I'm giving to it? Am I moving toward what matters to me? Or am I just filling time, just staying busy, just avoiding the deeper questions? As we continue this gentle exploration of Seneca's wisdom, let's allow these ideas to settle softly into our minds, not as demands or instructions, but simply as possibilities to consider, as perspectives that might shift something in how we see our lives. There's no urgency here, no pressure to change anything right away. We're just sitting with these thoughts, letting them flow through us like water, seeing what resonates, what touches something true inside us. Seneca tells us that the wise person lives in the present moment, not because the past and future don't exist, but because the present is the only time that's actually ours. The past is gone, finished, unchangeable. The future hasn't arrived yet and may never arrive. All we ever have is now, this moment, this breath. And so the wise person gives their full attention to the present, experiences it fully, doesn't wish to be somewhere else or doing something else, doesn't constantly project into the future or ruminate about the past. This is what the Stoics called living in accordance with nature, accepting reality as it is, flowing with the present moment rather than resisting it, being here now rather than always somewhere else in your mind. And there's a profound peace that comes from this, a sense of ease and acceptance that transforms everything. When you're truly present, even ordinary moments become extraordinary. Washing the dishes becomes a meditation. Walking down the street becomes an adventure. Sitting quietly becomes a profound experience of simply being alive. You don't need anything special to happen. You don't need to be anywhere else or be anyone else. You're here, you're alive, you're breathing, and that's enough. That's more than enough. It's everything. Seneca describes how most people are never really present in their own lives. They're always thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, always worrying about what might happen or regretting what did happen, always planning for some future moment when everything will finally be perfect, and they can finally relax and enjoy life. But that moment never comes, because as soon as you reach it, your mind immediately jumps to the next thing, the next goal, the next worry. And so you spend your entire life in your head, never actually experiencing the life you're living. He tells a story about people who are constantly busy, always rushing from one thing to the next, always feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And they tell themselves they'll rest later, they'll enjoy life when they retire, they'll finally have time for what matters once they finish this project or reach that goal. But when they finally do retire, when they finally have all the time in the world, they don't know what to do with it. They've spent so long being busy that they've forgotten how to simply be. They've lost touch with themselves, with what they actually enjoy, with what makes life worth living. And so they fill their retirement with more busyness, more activities, more ways to avoid sitting still and being present. This is what Seneca means when he says that life is long if you know how to use it, if you're fully present in each moment, if you're not constantly rushing ahead or dwelling in the past, if you're actually here for your life instead of always being somewhere else in your mind, then even a short life can feel full and rich and complete. But if you're never present, if you're always distracted or worried or planning, then even a long life will feel short because you weren't really there for any of it. And this brings us to another key insight from Seneca, the relationship between time and death. The way our awareness of mortality can actually help us live better, more fully, more authentically. Most people, Seneca observes, live in denial of death. They know intellectually that they will die someday, but they don't really believe it, not deep down. They act as if they have all the time in the world, as if death is something that happens to other people but not to them, as if they'll always have tomorrow to do what they want to do. And this denial leads to postponement, to procrastination, to a kind of half-lived life where nothing is ever urgent enough to demand their full attention and commitment. But the Stoics practiced remembering death, not to be morbid or depressing, but to wake up, to shake off this denial, to recognize the preciousness of each moment. When you truly understand that you will die, that your time is limited, that every day brings you closer to the end, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop postponing joy, stop avoiding difficult conversations, stop pretending that you have forever to become who you want to be. Death, in the Stoic view, is not something to fear. It's simply a natural part of life, the endpoint that gives meaning to everything that comes before it. Just as a story needs an ending to be complete, life needs death to be meaningful. Without death, nothing would matter, nothing would be precious, nothing would be worth savoring. It's the very fact that our time is limited that makes it valuable. Seneca writes beautifully about this. He says that life is like a play. It doesn't matter how long the play is. What matters is how well you played your part. A short play can be excellent, and a long play can be terrible. What matters is not the length but the quality, not how many years you lived, but how fully you lived them. And this is such a freeing perspective, because it takes the pressure off. You don't need to live to be 90 or 100 to have a good life. You don't need to accomplish some huge list of goals or make some enormous mark on the world. You just need to live well, to be present, to do your best with whatever time you have, whether that's decades or days. Seneca himself faced death with this kind of equanimity. Toward the end of his life, he was forced to commit suicide by the Emperor Nero, who had become paranoid and cruel. And according to the accounts we have, Seneca faced his death calmly, without fear or regret. He had lived according to his philosophy. He had used his time well, and so when death came, he was ready. He didn't cling to life desperately, didn't beg for more time, didn't rail against the injustice of it. He simply accepted what was happening and faced it with dignity and grace. This doesn't mean that death is easy or that we should welcome it eagerly. It's natural to want to live, to cherish life, to feel sad when it's ending. But there's a difference between the natural sadness that comes with endings and the desperate fear that comes from feeling like you wasted your time, like you never really lived, like you're running out of time before you even started. If you live well, if you use your time consciously, if you're present for your life, then death, when it comes, won't feel like a tragedy. It will feel like a natural conclusion, the end of a story that was well told, the final note in a melody that was worth singing. Let's pause here for a moment and simply breathe. Let's notice the air moving in and out of our lungs, the gentle rise and fall of our chest, the feeling of our body resting wherever we are. There's no need to think about anything in particular, no need to understand or remember or do anything at all. We're just here, breathing, existing, being present in this quiet moment as the words continue to flow, as the ideas settle softly into our awareness like snow falling on a winter evening. Seneca teaches us that time has three dimensions: past, present, and future. And of these three, only the present truly belongs to us. The past is finished, set in stone, unchangeable no matter how much we might wish otherwise. The future is uncertain, unknowable, entirely beyond our control. But the present, this moment, this is ours. This is where life actually happens. This is the only time that's real. And yet most people, Seneca says, hardly ever spend time in the present. They're either dwelling on the past, turning over old memories, replaying conversations, wishing things had gone differently, carrying resentments and regrets like heavy stones, or they're anxiously projecting into the future, worrying about what might happen, making elaborate plans that may never come to fruition, postponing their happiness until some imaginary moment when everything will finally be perfect. The present moment, meanwhile, goes by unnoticed, unlived, wasted. And this is the great tragedy, because the present moment is all we ever have. It's the only time we can actually experience anything, the only time we can feel joy or love or peace, the only time we can make choices or take actions or connect with others. Everything else is just stories in our heads, fantasies or memories that have no substance, no reality, no actual existence except as thoughts. When you really understand this, when you really grasp that only the present moment is real, something shifts. You stop giving so much power to your thoughts about the past and future. You stop letting those thoughts steal your peace, steal your attention, steal your life. You begin to come back to the present more often, to notice what's actually happening right now instead of always being lost in thought. And what you discover, when you do this, is that the present moment is usually okay. Even if your circumstances are difficult, even if you're facing challenges or problems or uncertainty, the present moment itself, right now, this breath, this heartbeat, this sensation of being alive, it's okay. You're here, you're breathing, you're existing, and that's enough. That's the foundation of everything. The past and future only have power over us when we're lost in thought about them. When we're fully present, they lose their grip. The past can't hurt us because it's not here. The future can't frighten us because it hasn't happened. All that exists is now, and now is usually manageable, usually bearable, usually fine. This is why meditation practices from various traditions often focus on the breath or on bodily sensations, because these things are always happening now, always in the present moment. When you pay attention to your breath, you can't be dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. You're here, you're now, you're present, and in that presence, there's a natural peace, a sense of aliveness and immediacy that's always available if we just remember to come back to it. Seneca would have appreciated these practices, even though they come from different philosophical traditions, because at their core, they're all pointing to the same truth, that life happens now, that presence is where peace is found, that the wise person is the one who knows how to be here, fully, completely, without constantly escaping into thoughts about other times and places. He writes about how people torture themselves with anxiety about the future. They imagine all the terrible things that might happen, all the ways things could go wrong, all the potential disasters lurking around every corner, and they treat these imaginary scenarios as if they're real, as if they're actually happening, as if they need to suffer through them in advance. But of course, most of these imagined disasters never happen, and even when difficult things do occur, they're rarely as terrible as we feared they would be. Our imagination always makes things worse than they actually are, so we suffer twice, Seneca says. Once in imagination and once in reality if the bad thing actually happens. And often we suffer in imagination over things that never happen at all, which means we're creating suffering out of nothing, torturing ourselves unnecessarily, wasting our precious present moments on fears and worries that have no substance, no reality, no power, except what we give them. The wise person, Seneca tells us, doesn't do this. They don't project into the future and imagine disasters. They don't dwell on the past and replay old hurts. They stay in the present moment, dealing with what's actually happening right now, not with what might happen someday or what happened before. And because of this, they're calmer, more peaceful, more capable of responding skillfully to whatever life brings. This doesn't mean ignoring the future or failing to plan. There's a difference between practical planning and anxious worrying. Practical planning is something you do in the present moment. You assess the situation, you make reasonable preparations, you take appropriate actions, and then you let it go. You don't keep churning it over in your mind, imagining every possible outcome, trying to control things that are beyond your control. Similarly, learning from the past is different from dwelling in it. You can reflect on what happened, extract the lessons, understand how you might do things differently, but then you move on. You don't keep reliving it. Don't keep punishing yourself. Don't keep wishing it had been different. You accept what happened, learn what you can, and return to the present moment where your actual life is unfolding. This capacity to stay present, to return to the now again and again, is perhaps the most important skill we can develop. It's the foundation of peace, the root of wisdom, the key to living well. And it's a skill, not an inherent trait. It can be practiced, developed, strengthened over time. Every time you notice you've drifted into thought and bring yourself back to the present moment, you're exercising this capacity, making it stronger, making it easier to access. As we rest here in these quiet moments, As we listen to these gentle words about time and presence and mortality, we're practicing this very skill. We're learning to be here, to let the mind settle, to experience the present moment without needing it to be different than it is. There's nowhere else we need to be, nothing else we need to do, no problem we need to solve. Right now, we're simply here, breathing, existing, being present to this moment as it unfolds in its own way, in its own time. Seneca reminds us that we often treat time as if it's unlimited, as if we can always get more, as if there will always be tomorrow to do what we didn't do today. But this is an illusion, a comfortable lie we tell ourselves to avoid confronting the reality of our mortality. Time is limited. Each of us has only so much of it, and we never know exactly how much. That is, today could be our last day. This hour could be our last hour. This breath could be our last breath. We simply don't know. And rather than making this thought frightening or depressing, the Stoics found it liberating. When you really understand that your time is limited, you stop wasting it. You stop putting things off. Stop avoiding what matters. Stop filling your days with trivia and distraction. You focus on what's essential, what's meaningful, what will make you feel, at the end of your life, that you lived well, that you were true to yourself, that you didn't waste the precious gift you were given. This is what Seneca means when he talks about the art of living. It's an art because it requires skill, attention, practice. It's not something that happens automatically. Most people never learn this art, never develop this skill, and they arrive at the end of their lives filled with regret, wishing they had lived differently, wishing they had been more present, wishing they had focused on what truly mattered, instead of getting lost in all the noise and busyness that seemed so important at the time, but that ultimately meant nothing. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can learn the art of living. We can develop the skill of presence. We can make conscious choices about how we spend our time. We can wake up from the trance of distraction and busyness and actually be here for our lives. And the time to start is not tomorrow or next week or next year. The time to start is now, right now, in this moment, because this moment is all we ever have. There's a beautiful paradox in Stoic philosophy. On the one hand, they tell us that we should always remember death, always keep our mortality in mind, always recognize that our time is limited. But on the other hand, they also tell us not to fear death, not to see it as something terrible, not to let the thought of it rob us of our peace. So how can both of these be true? How can we remember death without fearing it? The answer lies in understanding what death actually is. Death, for the Stoics, is not a tragedy or a punishment or something terrible that happens to us. It's simply a natural process, the ending that comes to all living things, the final stage of the cycle of existence. We're born, we live, we die. That's the pattern. That's how it works. And there's nothing strange or wrong or frightening about it. It's just what happens. When you accept this, when you truly come to terms with your mortality, death loses its power to frighten you. It becomes just another fact of life, like the fact that seasons change, or that rivers flow to the sea. It's not something to dread or avoid or deny. It's just part of the natural order, part of what it means to be alive. And when you stop fearing death, something wonderful happens. You start living more fully, because fear of death is really fear of life. When we're afraid of dying, we're also afraid of really living, afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of taking risks, afraid of fully committing to anything because we know it will end. But when we accept that everything ends, that impermanence is woven into the very fabric of existence, we can relax into life. We can be fully present. We can love completely, even knowing we'll lose what we love. We can invest ourselves fully in what matters, even knowing it's temporary. This is the gift that contemplating mortality gives us. It frees us from the illusion of permanence, from the fantasy that things will last forever, from the desperate clinging that causes so much suffering. When we know that everything is temporary, including ourselves, we can hold things more lightly, appreciate them more deeply, be grateful for them while they're here without needing them to last forever. Seneca writes about how people cling to life as if it's the most precious thing in the universe, as if losing it would be the worst possible fate. But he suggests that this desperate clinging actually makes life worse, not better. When you're terrified of death, you can't truly enjoy life. You're always anxious, always worried, always trying to protect yourself from the inevitable. And paradoxically, this makes your life smaller, more limited, less rich and full than it could be. But when you accept death, When you make peace with your mortality, you can live freely. You can take risks, pursue your dreams, speak your truth, love deeply, without the constant anxiety that you might lose it all, because you already know you're going to lose it all. That's guaranteed. So you might as well enjoy it while you have it, might as well make the most of whatever time you're given, might as well live fully and courageously, instead of hiding and protecting and trying to avoid the unavoidable. This is why the Stoics said that learning to die is learning to live. Because when you truly understand and accept your mortality, you're free to really live, to be fully present, to stop wasting time, to focus on what matters, to let go of petty concerns and meaningless worries. Death, understood properly, is not the enemy of life. It's the thing that gives life meaning, urgency, value. It's the frame that makes the picture beautiful, the deadline that makes the project matter, the ending that makes the story complete. As we continue to rest here, as we let these ideas wash over us like gentle waves, let's notice how our relationship with time might be shifting. Maybe we're feeling a little more present, a little more aware of this moment, a little less caught up in thoughts about past and future. Maybe there's a sense of peace settling in, a recognition that right now, in this moment, everything is actually okay. We're here, we're breathing, we're alive, and that's enough. That's more than enough. It's everything. Seneca talks about 3 kinds of time that people waste. And as we explore these, let's do so gently, without judgment, just noticing if any of these patterns are familiar, if they resonate with our own experience. The first kind of time people waste, Seneca says, is time they give to others without really wanting to. Time spent doing things they don't care about for people they don't particularly like, simply because they don't know how to say no, or because they're trying to be polite, or because they're afraid of disappointing someone. This is time that drains us, that leaves us feeling empty and resentful, that gives us nothing in return. And yet we give it away freely, day after day, until we wake up and realize we've spent years living for other people's expectations instead of our own values. The second kind of time people waste is time spent pursuing things that don't actually matter to them, careers they're not passionate about, possessions they don't really need, status and recognition from people whose opinions they don't actually care about. They spend their precious hours and days chasing goals that society told them were important, without ever stopping to ask if these goals align with what they truly value, what actually makes them happy, what would make their life feel meaningful and worthwhile. And the third kind of time people waste is time spent in distraction, in entertainment, in passive consumption. Hours spent scrolling through phones, watching television they don't really enjoy, filling every quiet moment with noise and stimulation to avoid being alone with their own thoughts. This time vanishes completely, leaves nothing behind, contributes nothing to their life. It's not rejuvenating like real rest, not enriching like genuine learning, not connecting like meaningful relationships. It's just empty calories, mental junk food, a way of numbing themselves to the passage of time. Now, Seneca is not saying we should never help others, never enjoy entertainment, never pursue external goals. The point is not to be rigid or puritanical about how we spend every minute. The point is to be conscious, to be intentional, to make real choices instead of just drifting along on autopilot. To ask ourselves regularly, is this how I want to spend my time? Is this adding something valuable to my life? Am I here because I chose to be, or because I couldn't figure out how to say no? When we start asking these questions, when we start becoming conscious of how we're actually spending our time, something shifts. We begin to see patterns we hadn't noticed before. We realize how much time we give away without thinking, how many hours we spend on things that don't matter to us, how often we're not really present for what we're doing. And this awareness, gentle and non-judgmental as it is, creates the possibility of change. Because you can't change what you're not aware of, but once you see clearly what you're doing, different choices become possible. Seneca suggests that we should regularly take time to reflect on how we're living, to step back from the busyness of daily life and really look at the big picture, to ask ourselves, if I continue living this way, Will I be satisfied with my life when I reach the end? Will I feel like I used my time well, like I lived according to my values, like I was true to myself? And if the answer is no, if we realize we're drifting away from what matters to us, then we have the opportunity to make a course correction, to start making different choices, to realign our life with what we actually care about. This kind of reflection doesn't have to be heavy or serious or anxiety-provoking. It can be gentle, curious, exploratory, like looking at a map to see where you are and where you're headed, not to judge yourself for being in the wrong place, but simply to understand your current position and consider whether you want to keep going in this direction or make a turn. And this is perfect for these quiet evening hours, for these moments when the day is ending and we're preparing for sleep. This is a natural time for reflection, for taking stock, for noticing how the day went and what we might want to do differently tomorrow. Not in a harsh, self-critical way, but with the gentle wisdom of someone who understands that every day is a new beginning. Every moment offers the chance to start fresh. Every breath is an opportunity to be more present, more aware, more alive. Seneca tells us that the wise person reviews their day before sleep, not to berate themselves for their failures or mistakes, but to learn, to notice patterns, to become more conscious of their habitual ways of thinking and acting. They ask themselves questions like, what did I do well today? Where did I lose my peace? When was I most present? When was I most distracted? What brought me joy? What drained my energy? And through this gentle inquiry, they gradually become more aware, more skillful, more capable of living in accordance with their values. This is not about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about being conscious, being present, being willing to look honestly at yourself and your life. And there's something deeply peaceful about this practice, something that helps the mind settle as we prepare for sleep. Because when we take time to reflect on the day, to notice what happened and how we responded, we're processing our experience. We're making sense of it. We're letting it settle into place instead of carrying it as unfinished business into our sleep. Let's breathe here for a moment. Let's feel the natural rhythm of our breath, the way it flows in and out without any effort on our part. The way our body knows exactly what to do, how to keep us alive moment by moment. There's something reassuring in this, something that reminds us we're part of the natural world, part of the great cycle of life and death that has been unfolding for billions of years. We're not separate from nature, not standing outside of it. We are nature. We're part of the pattern. And there's a deep peace in accepting this, in recognizing our place in the larger whole. Seneca often uses metaphors from nature to illuminate philosophical points. He talks about how rivers flow to the sea, how trees grow and eventually die, how seasons change in their predictable cycle. And he reminds us that we're subject to the same natural laws, the same processes of birth, growth, and death. We're not exceptions to the rules of nature, no matter how much we might wish to be. We're part of it, woven into its fabric, and our attempts to resist or escape these natural processes only cause us suffering. When we align ourselves with nature, when we accept the natural flow of life, when we stop fighting against what is and learn to move with it instead, that's when we find peace. That's when we discover that life doesn't have to be a struggle, doesn't have to be a constant battle against circumstances we can't control. We can flow like water, adapting to whatever container we find ourselves in, fitting ourselves to reality instead of demanding that reality conform to our wishes. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about living in accordance with nature. They didn't mean living in the woods or rejecting civilization. They meant understanding and accepting the natural order of things, recognizing what can be changed and what must be accepted, flowing with reality instead of fighting against it. And this includes accepting our own nature as human beings, with all our limitations and imperfections, our tendency to make mistakes, our emotional reactivity, our mortality. When we stop trying to be something we're not, when we accept ourselves as we actually are, when we embrace our humanity with all its messiness and complexity, that's when real growth becomes possible. Because we're starting from reality, from truth, instead of from some idealized fantasy of who we think we should be. And paradoxically, accepting ourselves as we are is what allows us to change, because we're not wasting energy fighting against reality, denying what's true, pretending to be something we're not. We can work with what's actually here, build on the foundation that actually exists, make real progress instead of just spinning our wheels. Seneca writes beautifully about this. He says that the wise person doesn't wish to be other than they are. They accept their circumstances, their limitations, their place in the world. But this acceptance is not passive resignation. It's active engagement from a place of reality. They work with what they have, make the best of their situation, find meaning and purpose within whatever constraints they face. They don't waste time wishing things were different or complaining about how unfair life is. They simply deal with reality as it presents itself. And there's tremendous freedom in this, because as long as we're fighting against reality, wishing things were different, resenting our circumstances, we're stuck, we're powerless, we're victims. But when we accept reality and work with it, instead of against it, suddenly we have power, we have agency, we can actually change things, because we're not wasting all our energy in futile resistance. This is especially important when it comes to accepting our mortality. As long as we're in denial about death, pretending it won't happen or trying not to think about it, we can't fully live. We're always holding back, always protecting ourselves, always afraid. But when we accept death as a natural part of life, as something that will definitely happen but that we don't need to fear, then we're free to really live, to take risks, to be vulnerable, to love fully, to invest ourselves completely in what matters to us. Seneca knew this from personal experience. As a member of the Roman elite, as an advisor to emperors, he lived in a world where death was always close. Political fortunes changed rapidly. Today's trusted advisor could be tomorrow's executed enemy. He saw people die around him, saw how quickly life could end, how fragile our hold on existence really is. And this wasn't abstract philosophy for him. It was lived reality, something he confronted daily. And what he learned from this constant proximity to death was not to be afraid, not to withdraw from life, not to try to protect himself by not caring about anything. What he learned was to be fully present, to appreciate each moment, to live according to his values regardless of circumstances, to maintain his integrity and peace of mind even in the face of danger and uncertainty. When he was finally forced to take his own life by Nero, the accounts tell us he did so calmly, surrounded by friends, continuing to discuss philosophy until the very end. He had practiced dying his whole life, had meditated on mortality, had accepted it as natural and inevitable. And so when it came, he was ready. He didn't rage against it or beg for mercy or fall apart. He faced it with the same equanimity he had cultivated throughout his life. Now we're not likely to face such dramatic circumstances in our own lives, but we all face death eventually, and we all face losses and endings throughout our lives. Relationships end. Jobs end, phases of life end, people we love die. And how we meet these endings, how we face these deaths, both literal and metaphorical, depends largely on whether we've accepted impermanence, whether we've made peace with the transient nature of all things. If we cling desperately to everything, trying to hold on to what we have, refusing to accept that all things must pass, then every ending feels like a tragedy. Every loss devastates us. Every change throws us into chaos. But if we've understood and accepted impermanence, if we've learned to hold things lightly while still caring about them deeply, if we've made peace with the fact that nothing lasts forever, then endings, while still sad, don't destroy us. We can meet them with grace, with acceptance, with the understanding that this is how life works. This is the natural order, and there's a beauty in it, even though it hurts. As we rest here in this gentle space, as we allow these reflections on time and mortality to settle into our awareness, there's no need to grasp at them, no need to try to remember everything, no need to analyze or understand. We're simply letting them flow through us like a river, letting them touch whatever they touch, trusting that what we need to absorb will be absorbed naturally, without effort. The mind, when it's relaxed like this, when it's not trying too hard, when it's simply open and receptive, learns in a different way than when we're actively studying. It's like the way plants absorb sunlight, effortless and natural, or the way soil absorbs rain. The wisdom seeps in by itself, finds its own level, settles where it needs to settle. And this is perfect for now, perfect for these quiet hours before sleep, perfect for this state of gentle receptivity we're cultivating. Seneca talks about how learning philosophy is not about memorizing concepts or accumulating knowledge. It's about transformation, about becoming different, about letting wisdom change you from the inside out. And this kind of transformation happens slowly, gradually, through repeated exposure to truth, through letting ideas marinate in your consciousness, through living with questions rather than rushing to answers. He says that philosophy should be like medicine. You don't just read about it, you take it in, you let it work on you, you allow it to heal the soul just as medicine heals the body. And the healing happens over time, through consistent practice, through returning again and again to these fundamental truths about how to live, how to think, how to be in the world. And this is what we're doing here, in this quiet space, with these gentle words flowing like a lullaby. We're taking in philosophy, letting it work on us, allowing it to settle into our consciousness and do its healing work. There's no rush, no pressure, no need to grasp or strain or try too hard. We're simply here, listening, absorbing, letting whatever wants to shift begin to shift in its own time, in its own way. Time, Seneca reminds us, is the raw material of life. It's what we're given to work with, the medium through which we create our existence. And like any raw material, it can be used skillfully or wastefully, can be crafted into something beautiful or simply squandered. The choice, moment by moment, is ours. We can be conscious of how we're using our time, or we can drift along unconsciously, letting it slip away without ever really noticing. And this consciousness, this awareness of time, doesn't have to be anxious or stressful. It can be peaceful, grateful, appreciative. When we're really present, when we're truly aware of being alive, there's a natural gratitude that arises, a sense of, look, I'm here, I'm alive, I get to experience this moment. And that gratitude makes everything richer, makes even ordinary moments feel special, makes life feel like the gift it actually is. Seneca writes about how people often feel entitled to their lives, as if they're owed a certain number of years, as if anything less would be unfair. But he points out that we're not owed anything. Life is a gift, not a right. Every moment we get is a bonus, is more than we're entitled to, is something to be grateful for rather than taken for granted. And when we understand this, when we really get that our existence is not guaranteed, not owed to us, not something we earned or deserve, but simply something we've been given for a while, then gratitude becomes natural, becomes the default response to simply being alive. This gratitude doesn't depend on circumstances. It's not about being grateful because things are going well or because you have what you want. It's a deeper gratitude, a fundamental appreciation for existence itself, for consciousness, for the mere fact of being here, to experience anything at all. And this kind of gratitude is available in any moment, regardless of what's happening, because it's based on the simple fact of being alive, rather than on particular conditions being met. When we cultivate this gratitude, when we practice appreciating the gift of time, rather than treating it as something we're owed, something shifts in how we relate to life. We stop feeling cheated when things don't go our way. Stop feeling like victims when life is difficult. Stop demanding that existence conform to our preferences. We start accepting what comes with more grace, more equanimity, more understanding that this is all temporary anyway, that we're lucky to be here for whatever time we have, that every moment is a gift, even if it's not the moment we would have chosen. And this brings us back to where we started, to Seneca's central insight that life is not short, that we have plenty of time if only we would use it wisely, if only we would stop wasting it on things that don't matter, if only we would be present for the time we have, instead of always being somewhere else in our minds. The solution to the perceived shortness of life is not to try to extend it, not to grasp desperately at more years, not to fight against time's passage. The solution is to be fully present in the time we have, to squeeze every drop of experience from each moment, to be so completely here that even a short life feels full and complete and satisfying. And we can start practicing this right now, in this moment, as we lie here in the quiet, as we feel our breath moving in and out, as we notice the sensations in our body, as we listen to these words flowing like a stream, we can practice being here, fully here, not thinking about tomorrow or yesterday, but simply experiencing this now, this present moment that is all we ever really have. This is the art of living that Seneca teaches, not complex, not difficult to understand, but requiring practice, requiring patience, requiring a willingness to keep coming back to the present moment again and again, 1,000 times a day if necessary. Each time we notice we've drifted into thought, each time we catch ourselves worrying about the future or ruminating about the past. And the beautiful thing is that we can't fail at this. There's no way to do it wrong, because every time we notice we've drifted and bring ourselves back, that's the practice. That's success. The noticing is what matters. The returning is what builds the skill. And we can do this as many times as we need to, forever if necessary, because each return is a small victory. Each moment of presence is its own reward. Let's rest here for a while. Let's feel what it's like to simply be present, to not need anything to be different than it is, to accept this moment exactly as it unfolds. There's nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, no problem to solve right now. We're just here, breathing, existing, being alive in this quiet space, where time seems to slow down, where the rushing and striving of the day falls away, where we can finally just be. Seneca tells us that this is what the wise person has learned, to be content in the present moment, to find peace not in external circumstances, but in their own mind, to carry their sanctuary with them wherever they go. And while we may not be fully wise yet, while we may still struggle with anxiety and distraction, and all the challenges of being human, we can practice. We can take these moments of quiet to remember what matters, to reconnect with ourselves, to touch that place of peace that's always available beneath the surface chaos of life. And as we practice this, as we return again and again to presence, to awareness, to simply being here, we gradually become more skillful. The peace becomes more accessible. The present moment becomes easier to find. The voice of wisdom grows stronger than the voice of anxiety. And slowly, gently, almost imperceptibly, we change. We become more like the wise person Seneca describes, more peaceful, more present, more accepting of what is, more capable of flowing with life rather than fighting against it. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual, subtle, like the way the seasons change or the way a child grows. You don't notice it day by day, but over time, over months and years of practice, you look back and realize you're different. You respond to challenges more calmly. You waste less time on things that don't matter. You're more present with the people you love. You appreciate ordinary moments more deeply. And you realize that this is what Seneca was talking about. This is the art of living. This is what it means to use your time wisely. The fear of death, Seneca tells us, is really a fear that we haven't lived. When people face death and feel desperate panic, it's often because they realize they wasted their life. They never did what they really wanted to do. They never became who they wanted to be. They never took the risks or made the changes or lived according to their deepest values. And now it's too late. The time is gone. The opportunity has passed. And that's terrifying. That's the real source of the fear, not death itself, but the thought of dying without having really lived. But if you live well, if you use your time consciously, if you're present for your life, and you live according to your values, and you don't postpone what matters, then death, when it comes, won't carry that same terror, because you'll know you lived, you'll know you didn't waste your time, you'll know you were true to yourself. And that makes all the difference. That's what allows someone to face death with peace, with acceptance, even with a sense of completion. This is why Seneca spent so much time writing about how to live, because learning to live well is how we prepare for death, not by thinking morbid thoughts or dwelling on mortality, but by becoming so present, so engaged, so alive, that when death comes, we can meet it without regret, without the desperate feeling that we missed our chance, without the agonizing thought that we never really lived at all. And we prepare for this not by doing something dramatic or extraordinary, but by making small choices every day, choosing presence over distraction, choosing what matters over what's easy, choosing authenticity over pretense, choosing consciousness over autopilot. And these small choices accumulate. They build on each other. They gradually transform our life from something we're sleepwalking through into something we're fully awake for, fully engaged with, fully alive to. The present moment is always offering itself to us. It's always here, always available, always ready to be experienced. But we have to meet it. We have to show up for it. We have to be present. And this showing up, this being present, this is what Seneca means by living well. It's not about grand achievements or impressive accomplishments. It's about being here, being awake, being conscious, being fully alive to whatever this moment brings. And right now, as we rest here in the quiet, as the day comes to an end and sleep approaches, we're practicing this. We're being present. We're not elsewhere in our minds. We're here with these words, with our breath, with the feeling of our body resting, with the gentle transition from waking to sleeping. And in this simple presence, there's a peace, a completeness, a sense that this is enough, that we are enough, that this moment is enough. Seneca would recognize this peace. He would understand that we've touched something essential, something that can't be taken away by external circumstances, something that remains available regardless of what's happening in the world around us. This inner sanctuary, this place of peace, this capacity to be present, this is what he spent his life cultivating, what he taught others to develop, what he believed was the key to living well and dying well. As we continue to rest, as we allow ourselves to sink deeper into relaxation, deeper into this peaceful state, let's notice how time seems different here. How it's not rushing forward, not pressing on us with demands and deadlines, not slipping through our fingers. Here, in this present moment, time is simply what it is. It's not our enemy, not something we're racing against, not something we need to manage or control. It just is. And we just are. And there's a natural harmony in this, a sense of alignment with the way things actually are, rather than constantly fighting against reality. This is what Seneca meant when he said that time is abundant for those who know how to use it. Because when we're fully present, when we're not constantly projecting into the future or dwelling in the past, when we're here now, time feels different. It feels fuller, richer, more substantial. A single hour of presence can feel more satisfying than days of distracted busyness. A moment of real connection can feel more valuable than years of superficial relationships. A breath taken consciously can feel more alive than all the unconscious breaths we've ever taken. The quality of our experience doesn't depend on the quantity of time we have. It depends on our presence, our awareness, our ability to be fully here for whatever time we've been given. And this is hopeful, isn't it? It means we don't need more time to have a rich, full, meaningful life. We just need to be more present for the time we have. We just need to wake up from the trance of distraction and actually be here, actually pay attention, actually experience our life instead of just thinking about it. And this waking up can happen at any moment. It doesn't require special circumstances or perfect conditions. It can happen right now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this quiet moment. As we rest here listening to these gentle words, we can wake up right now. We can be present right now. We can experience this moment fully right now. And then the next moment, and the next, gradually stringing together moments of presence like pearls on a thread, creating a life that's awake, that's conscious, that's truly lived. Seneca writes about how most people are neither fully alive nor fully dead. They exist in a kind of twilight state, going through the motions of life without really being present for it, without really experiencing it, without really engaging with it. They're not quite asleep, but not quite awake either. They're just drifting along, letting life happen to them, reacting to circumstances without ever taking conscious control of how they spend their time and energy. But the wise person, he says, is fully awake. They're present, they're conscious, they're engaged. They're not just going through the motions, but actually living, actually experiencing each moment, actually making conscious choices about how to spend their time. And this wakefulness, this presence, this consciousness, this is what makes life rich and meaningful, what makes even a short life feel complete, what allows someone to face death without regret. And we can cultivate this wakefulness, this presence, this consciousness. It's not some special gift that only a few people have. It's a capacity we all possess, a muscle we can all strengthen, a skill we can all develop. We just need to practice, to keep returning to the present moment, to keep choosing awareness over unconsciousness, to keep showing up for our life instead of sleepwalking through it. The practice is simple. Notice when you've drifted into thought, when you've been lost in worry or planning or remembering, and gently bring yourself back to the present moment. Notice your breath. Notice your body. Notice what you can see and hear and feel right now. Do this again and again, 1,000 times if necessary, without judgment or frustration, simply returning each time like coming home. And over time, this practice transforms you. You spend more time present and less time lost in thought. You experience your life more fully because you're actually here for it. You waste less time because you're conscious of how you're spending it. You feel more alive because you're not just thinking about life, but actually living it, actually experiencing it, actually being here for each moment as it unfolds. This is the gift Seneca offers us across these 2,000 years. Not just abstract philosophy, not just interesting ideas, but practical wisdom for living well, for using our time wisely, for being present for the life we've been given. And this wisdom is as relevant today as it was in ancient Rome, because human nature hasn't changed. The challenges of life haven't fundamentally altered. The question of how to live well remains as urgent and important as ever. As we approach the deeper waters of sleep, as we feel our body relaxing more completely, as we notice the mind becoming quieter and quieter, let's carry with us this fundamental insight from Seneca. That time is precious, that life is brief, that presence is the key to living well. Not as something to worry about or feel anxious about, but as a gentle reminder to be here, to be awake, to be alive to each moment we've been given. There's nothing we need to do with this understanding, nowhere we need to take it, no way we need to apply it right now. We're simply letting it settle into our awareness, letting it become part of us, trusting that when we need it, when the moment calls for it, this wisdom will be there, available, ready to guide us toward presence, toward consciousness, toward living well. Seneca tells us that philosophy should be like this, not something we study in isolation from life, but something that permeates our existence, that becomes part of how we see and think and act. It should be woven into the fabric of our daily experience, available in every moment, guiding us subtly toward wisdom, toward peace, toward living in accordance with nature and reason. And as we rest here, as we feel ourselves drifting gently toward sleep, we're embodying this philosophy. We're being present, we're accepting what is, we're flowing with the natural rhythm of our body as it transitions from waking to sleeping. We're not resisting or fighting or trying to control. We're simply here, allowing what wants to happen, trusting in the process, resting in the present moment. This is what Seneca would recognize as wisdom. Not complex intellectual understanding, not impressive philosophical arguments, but this simple capacity to be present, to accept what is, to flow with life rather than fighting against it. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, the heart of what Seneca was trying to teach, the key to living well and dying well. And so as we continue our gentle journey into sleep, as we feel consciousness gradually fading, as we let go of the day and all its concerns, we can rest in the understanding that this moment is enough, that we are enough, that we don't need to be anywhere else or doing anything else. We're here, we're breathing, we're alive, and that's enough. That's more than enough. It's everything. The night stretches ahead of us, offering rest, offering renewal, offering a temporary release from the demands and concerns of waking life. And we can surrender to it. We can let ourselves be held by it. We can trust that when morning comes, we'll wake refreshed, ready to engage with life again, ready to practice presence again, ready to use our time wisely again. But for now, there's nothing to do, nowhere to be, no effort required. We're simply resting, simply being, simply allowing the natural process of sleep to unfold in its own time, in its own way. And in this surrender, in this letting go, there's a peace that surpasses understanding, a sense of rightness, a feeling of being exactly where we need to be. Seneca understood this rhythm of engagement and rest, of activity and stillness, of doing and being. He knew that we can't be present and conscious every moment of every day, that we need times of rest, times when we let go of effort and simply allow ourselves to be carried by the natural processes of life. And sleep is one of these times, a nightly return to unconsciousness, a temporary release from the burden of awareness, a gift of renewal that allows us to wake and engage with life again. So let's accept this gift. Let's welcome the sleep that's approaching. Let's allow ourselves to drift into that peaceful darkness where time doesn't matter, where there are no worries or concerns, where we simply rest in the deep silence of unconsciousness, knowing that when we wake, the wisdom we've absorbed tonight will still be with us, will still be working in us, will still be guiding us toward a life that's more present, more conscious, more fully lived. As we sink deeper and deeper into relaxation, as the words begin to fade into the background, as consciousness gradually dims, let's hold one final thought from Seneca, that life is not short, but that we make it short through our carelessness. And let's resolve, gently and without pressure, that when we wake we'll try to be a little more present, a little more aware, a little more conscious of the precious time we've been given. Not perfectly, not all the time, but just a little more, because that's all that's needed. Small steps, repeated daily, gradually transforming our life from something we're sleeping through into something we're awake for. And with that gentle intention held lightly in our awareness, we can let go completely, can surrender to sleep, can trust that everything will be okay, that we are okay, that this moment is enough and we are enough and all is well. There's nothing to fear, nothing to resist, nothing to control. We can simply be, simply rest, simply allow the gentle darkness of sleep to embrace us and carry us through the night. The ancient Romans, Seneca's people, had many beautiful phrases, many words of wisdom that have echoed through the centuries. And one of these phrases is particularly appropriate now as we drift toward sleep. Quiescere, they said. It means to rest, to be quiet, to find peace. And that's what we're doing now, finding quiescence, finding stillness, finding that deep peace that comes when we stop striving and simply allow ourselves to be. In this quiescence, there's a healing that happens. The body repairs itself, the mind processes the day's experiences, the spirit refreshes itself. And we don't have to do anything to make this happen. It happens by itself, naturally, effortlessly, as long as we simply allow it, as long as we don't interfere with the process through worry or resistance, or trying to control what can't be controlled. This is trust, trusting in the natural processes of life, trusting in the wisdom of the body, trusting that we'll wake when it's time to wake, trusting that rest will come when we stop fighting it. And this trust is itself a form of wisdom, a recognition that we're not in control of everything, that some things happen by themselves if we just get out of the way, if we just allow them, if we just surrender to the natural flow of existence. Seneca knew about this kind of trust. He knew about surrendering to what we can't control, about accepting what is, about flowing with life rather than constantly fighting against it. And he knew that this trust, this acceptance, this surrender, these are not signs of weakness, but of strength, because it takes real strength to let go, to stop trying to control everything, to accept that we're not in charge of the universe, and that's okay. That's actually a relief. We can put down that burden. We can stop trying to manage everything. We can rest in the understanding that the universe will continue to unfold, whether we worry about it or not. And so we rest. We let go of trying to control. We surrender to sleep. We trust in the natural process. We allow the gentle darkness to enfold us. And we know, somewhere deep inside, that this is right, that this is good, that this is exactly what we need. Rest, peace, quiet, a temporary release from consciousness, before we wake again to a new day, a new opportunity to be present, to be aware, to use our time wisely. Time will still be there when we wake. The questions about how to live well will still be relevant. The choice to be present or distracted will still be before us. But for now, we can rest from all of that. We can let it all go. We can simply be here in this peaceful darkness, breathing quietly, existing without effort, being alive in the most fundamental, simple way. And as consciousness fades, as we drift further and further from waking awareness, as we cross that mysterious threshold between waking and sleeping, we can rest in the knowledge that Seneca's wisdom will be with us, will continue to work in us even while we sleep, will be there when we wake to guide us toward a life that's more present, more conscious, more awake to the precious gift of time we've been given. The last thoughts before sleep are often the most peaceful. The mind has finally quieted, the body has finally relaxed, and there's a sense of completion, of letting go, of surrendering to what is. And in this state, there's room for gratitude. Gratitude for the day that's ending, for the sleep that's coming, for the breath that continues to flow, for the simple fact of being alive. And this gratitude, held gently in awareness as we slip into unconsciousness, colors our sleep, makes it deeper and more restful, allows us to wake refreshed and renewed. Seneca would understand this gratitude. He would recognize it as a sign of wisdom, as evidence that we've understood something fundamental about life, that it's a gift, not a right, that we're lucky to be here, that every moment is more than we're owed, and that recognizing this, being grateful for it, transforms how we experience everything. Even sleep becomes something to be grateful for, another gift, another opportunity to rest and renew and prepare for whatever comes next. So we sleep with gratitude, we rest with peace, we surrender with trust, and we know, in some deep way, that transcends thought, that this is how life is meant to be lived, not in constant anxiety and striving, but in acceptance and presence and gratitude for the simple gift of existence, breathing in, breathing out, being alive, being here, being present, and then, when it's time, letting go, resting, sleeping, trusting that tomorrow will come if it's meant to come, and if it doesn't, that's okay too, because we were here, we were present, we lived this day as well as we could, and that's enough. The darkness deepens, the silence grows, the breath slows, and we drift, gently, peacefully, without resistance, into sleep, into rest, into that mysterious realm where consciousness dissolves, and we simply exist, simply are, without thought or worry or effort, just being, just resting, just sleeping. And this is perfect. This is exactly right. This is how it should be. And somewhere in that deep silence, in that peaceful darkness, Seneca's wisdom continues to work, continues to settle into our understanding, continues to shape how we think about time, about mortality, about presence, about living well. And when we wake, whether tomorrow or some other day, whether soon or far in the future, this wisdom will be there, will have become part of us, will guide us gently toward a life that's more awake, more conscious, more present, more fully lived. But for now, there's only sleep, only rest, only peace, only the gentle rise and fall of breath in darkness, only this moment, and this moment, and this moment, each one dissolving into the next, carrying us deeper, quieter, stiller, until finally there's nothing at all, just sleep, just rest, just the deep healing silence of unconscious existence. And that's perfect, that's enough, that's everything. Sleep well, rest deeply, and know that all is well. Time will take care of itself. Life will unfold as it will, and you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, which is nothing, nothing at all, just resting, just being, just allowing this perfect, peaceful sleep to embrace you and hold you and carry you through the night.